Good morning, welcome. So nice to be with you today. Welcome to Fasting Space. Going to be leaning into some optimism today. That is my goal personally. Say believing you can achieve your goal. If you're here in a weight loss space, say believing you can do it. That is step one. Gotta have the belief. Hot is with us. Good morning. Beautiful day. It's a beautiful day here in Madison. Beautiful and warm coming up. Nice to have you with us. Here's how I said it in the description. Believing you can hit your weight loss goal is essential, but optimism without the appropriate action can be just a wish. Can't necessarily just wish our way there. How do we bridge the gap between a positive mindset and actual real-world results? Love that. And I'm going to center our thinking with this quote that I found in an article yesterday. I was reading a gentleman, Sahil Bloom, an article that he wrote for the Curiosity Chronicle, which I was really enjoying reading. And it has this image. Always assume things will work out and then do the work to make it true. Isn't that a great quote? I love that. He was describing in this article when he showed this, when he was talking about this quote, which he says a mentor showed him or told him, that there are two types of optimism. This is what he said, two types of optimism. There's an active optimism and then a passive optimism. Passive optimism he was defining as basically like just the belief that things will work out. There's like the first part, but like just in some way that is apart from yourself. Like, I don't have to do anything. It's just going to happen. And maybe you can think of times when this does happen. But he was saying this is as opposed to active optimism. I really liked that. I have to see what I think about it. What do you think about it? He was saying sometimes at least passive optimism isn't that much different than pessimism. Because in both scenarios, you're not taking any action. You're pessimistic, you think it's not going to work out, you don't do anything. You're a passive optimist, you say, things will probably be okay, it's all going to be fine. Okay, in both cases, not taking action. And so I don't know if I have thought of it exactly that way. A quote is coming to my mind right now, for what it's worth. Someone said once, God helps those who help themselves. Okay, well, see, I don't know about that. But is that getting into that space? Like, we have an opportunity to take action. We have gifts and abilities that have been given to us. And taking responsibility to use those gifts and abilities in the most thoughtful way, I say, is the prudent course, whatever the broader philosophical truth is of it. And so this is what I wanted to lean into a little bit today. How do we become an active optimist? Take powerful action right here in our own life, right in this moment, right today, Start now. Passive optimists may be thinking, yeah, things are going to be okay, and maybe they will. I say probably they will. We put so much pressure on ourselves. I don't want anybody putting any pressure on themselves. I just want people being encouraged and inspired. An active optimist isn't going to wait. They're not going to say, maybe tomorrow something good is going to happen. Say, let's make something good today, right here, right now. And we have a lot of tools and a lot of opportunities to do it. I love, as you know, if you're following along, yes. If you're following along, 4 things that I like to talk about and 4 places that we can be an active optimist today. And fasting space, why don't we hit it right off the top? What does fasting space look like for you these days or today? And what could it look like today? Is fasting space actually in your being, in the body? Is that something that you're finding benefit from? Is it something that's giving you energy and encouragement, both in the body and in your mind, in the spirit? What is that feeling like for you? We just went through the last month, Lean In Challenge, where we're saying +1. How do we just lean into a fasting space a little bit? At the right time, in the right season, on the right day. And so how is that feeling? We got an opportunity here. Can you approach fasting from the perspective of active optimism? To realize that fasting is an action. Like, say, it's nothing. You say it's like, from a certain point of view, we say it's inaction. It's not doing anything. Maybe an active optimist or looking at the other side. It's something we do. We have to choose to do it. It's like taking a walk. You can take a walk. You can practice fasting. Something you do. And from that space, we can see is very proactive. Fasting is a tool in the toolkit, not the only tool. But an active optimist is looking at a situation and saying, hey, I've got something going on here. I've got an issue that I want to solve. We've got a metabolic problem, perhaps. Blood sugar isn't where we want. Body fat levels, energy in the body, not where we want. One of the tools at our disposal, a fasting space. Say, open up some space without food. Let the body turn its energy attention inward. I love describing fasting like a fire. Metabolism is a fire because it is burning energy in the body. It's like, or I say fasting is like the oxygen that is feeding the fire. It's the space, you know. We cram the logs so tight, choke out the fire. Got to open up some space, let the oxygen flow in so that can burn. Have you ever felt like that? Like your metabolism is like a smothered out fire. Say, we got to get this going. One of the things that, before I learned about fasting, if we dial back on the dial 2014 or so, I'll be sitting there, both personally, not knowing. I say, I put on extra weight in my residency program. How do I get rid of it? Didn't know. Personally practicing the same advice that I give to all my patients, which is what I was taught in medical school. So you got to just work, work harder, and it can bring so much judgment. And you see, I'm like, I can't work any harder. I'm running half marathons. I'm doing all this stuff. You say, I must be doing something wrong. Well, and then there's like a little bit of truth to it. If you are putting in a ton of energy into something and you're not getting the results that you want, it's like, well, something has to change. I don't like bringing any judgment on something. It's not anybody's fault, right? We are in a space where everybody is trying to do their best. And we get some advice and we hit it really hard. And this is when I started to realize there is more going on in the metabolism and the body than we have been led to believe, or that we have collectively realized, however it is. I was like, I'm giving hundreds and hundreds of people, I say, you got to just eat less, exercise more. Okay, and then I do it, not really going to a better place, going to a stronger place. I was exercising a lot. I was getting stronger, but hard to get the extra weight to go away. I was like, oh, then fasting came to me like a gift. I've told that story a few times, love telling it. All of a sudden you see fasting space. Now I start telling people, hey, what if you try taking all that effort that you're doing? Why not just open up some space? Put some of that effort into some fasting space. Changed everything in my personal life, in my medical practice. All of a sudden I start seeing people who had struggled for years start moving the needle forward. Have you experienced this in your life? I would love to hear about it. Have you experienced that, or have you not? Sometime I want to do a session or a series that is like share the love, share the struggle. You know, this is the two things. Really the same thing though. Work hard at resting in fasting. Hey, that is a cool thought. I love that. Sometimes we can look at fasting and we can say it's hard work, and sometimes we can say it's nothing, and I love that, you know. Work hard at not working. Yeah, I really like that thought. Sometimes I like to say let fasting do the work, you know, because it's like for the right person, especially if you're on the treadmill, literally you're just running. And if it's working for you, you know, beautiful. I had a comment on a video yesterday say, when I was talking about fasting strength, I chopped that little thought up into a short, and somebody said, you know, they're just focused on getting the biggest muscles possible. They're not going to be doing any fasting. Thank you. I say, look, different strokes for different folks. And I'm never going to argue with anybody who's like a bodybuilder that fasting is absolutely the maximally effective muscle building process. I think there's good physiology to say that, I'm forgetting the exact scientific term, but we have like these periods where a certain window where we can, you know, build muscle with the protein that we are getting in. This is at least the classic teaching. But I will argue that for a regular person who isn't trying to be like a huge, you know, absolutely enormous person, which is not the fasting vibe, that fasting is about being lean and strong. And these are things, and also functionally strong. Not like gym bro strength where it's like, you know, you just got... we're just trying to hit numbers for like the purpose of it, you know. Functional human strength to actually do things and have energy. Many people who are like in the gym, who are bodybuilder type, go through cycles of like bulking and cutting. If anybody ever watched them, bulking, cutting. People eat, and they think you got to add on all the body fat and the muscle to get stronger. And then they go through cutting phase. And to me, I've never found that to be very healthy. I actually think it's an unhealthy process. So people who are trying to build muscle, I think a fasting-based process, some research I have talked about in the session, fasting can make you strong. And I've got it linked under the sports performance article on simplefasting.com. There is research that says, that shows that fasting is just as good as frequent eating for maintaining muscle while losing weight. And so that's been better established. And I don't think we have to say, well, fasting doesn't have to be the maximally effective, pure muscle building process if it is a process that can let you get stronger without putting on extra body fat at the same time, which is many people's experience in that world. And then the more practical thing for us is that it can help you to stay strong and be strong while losing weight. And that's the thing that is practical for most people. So this is all a big thought about this first section that I was saying. Fasting is a tool. We can use it to accomplish metabolic things in the body. And then Optimist is going to say, I'm going to take that tool and I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. And so what does that look like? Oh, I loved thinking more about this. Let fasting do the work, or work hard at not working in that space, resting in a fasting space. That is the vibe I want. So fasting can be an intense process. It can be difficult. Never want to sugarcoat anything with it. But it can also be a gentle space that I like to say is like a sailboat, and let the wind kind of blow into the sail. And that's how fasting can do the work. That sort of wind, that's like the metabolism is the wind. Metabolism is always working in the body. As long as we are on this side of the ground, right? The heart keeps beating, we keep breathing, everything keeps running. It's like a furnace in the body. 98 degrees inside, out here at 70 degrees. Don't walk outside today because then it'll be 98, both places. But see, then we can overheat because that metabolism doesn't stop and that energy's got to dissipate somewhere. So usually in society today, right, we are consuming as the flow of energy you see coming in. You see in some ideal scenario, it's balanced, and the energy that it takes to run that whole metabolism, we just let it flow out in the other direction, keep things balanced. One of the things, I should try to find it again, I saw a graph once that showed total daily energy expenditure between people who are exercising and people who are not exercising. And what was fascinating is the difference was not as much as you would think, because all the time while people are exercising, we're still running the basal metabolism. And that basal metabolism, it's always got to be going. Like when we're exercising, we're amping it up a notch. And so sometimes we can think, oh, if we didn't exercise, nothing happened. No, you still ran the whole bodily process for a whole day, and that takes a lot of energy. And I'm going to find that. Make a note. I want to find that graph again. Very interesting. Now, it's very good to exercise. I'm not opposed to it in any way, and that's maybe the second thing we can talk about to lean into. Spent most of my last month personally, I was talking about and dialing in fasting exercise. And I found it to be such a powerful process. I just loved it and felt so much better. Is that a space where you can thoughtfully lean into? And maybe it's not the season for it. Talk with your medical team if you have any concerns about it. And always, I say, you gotta walk before you can run, and you gotta sit before you can walk. And so that's the progression. Just to be able to work hard at not working in a fasting space. Beautiful to sit in that space. Let the body run. That basal metabolism, always working, always chewing up the energy. And that is, you want to stack a lot of success in that space before you take it to the next level. But when the time is right, maybe walking is the next sort of thing. Get in a fasting space, open up some walking, moving in that space, and how does the energy flow in that space? And of course, over time, the body, what's incredible, you have a great ability to open up that space. And as the body is trained and practiced, there's just incredible activity space in a fasting space. Somebody came on my fasting strength video yesterday and was talking about that they run 6 miles most days fasting. And I just love that people are having that experience. I've had that type of experience. Certainly, I run a half marathon fasting. I was so far away from anything like that. Could never have imagined that you could do it. But train up for it and do it. And I prefer to do it. Like I said, same with that muscle building guy. I'll never argue that fasting is the best way to set a record time in a half marathon. But I say it might be the best way to feel the best. I mean, I know I feel better. And I prefer it. Now, I don't want to, when I used to run half marathons, I'd get up extra early. I'd eat a bunch of oatmeal. I'd drink orange juice. I'd try to get a bunch of carbs in. And then all throughout the run, I'd be hitting the Gatorade stands. And I just don't feel as good when I do it that way anymore. I'd be very curious to know, have you ever watched, you can go on YouTube and you can watch the world record, half marathon race, and you can watch these folks. I'll tell you, they're not stopping at any Gatorade stands. They're just sprinting basically the entire 13 miles. It's just incredible to watch. In I don't know where we're at currently. It's 48 minutes or something, and their basically pace is like me sprinting, I think. Totally amazing. I do wonder, what is their pre-workout like? What are they? Are they fasting? Are they loading up with gels? I don't know. What is the very world record pinnacle thing to do? In sprinting, glucose is the fast burning fuel. And I think for extremely intense short-term activity, I think there really is a place for it. Fasting space, like I said in that other video, and in our hiking discussion, right? Fasting, especially burning that fat for fuel, very stable, long-term, low-intensity energy source. Really help you walk a long way, do a hiking all day, do some endurance sort of stuff. It's like you dial in on that sugar for the short-term sprint, for the high-intensity interval training, stuff like that. So 2 tools, right? How are you feeling about it? Are you going to be leaning into it today? Lean into some fasting space today. Lean into some exercise space today. When the fasting space is over, giving your body the gift of the very most nutritious, healthy, unprocessed foods. There's another space to lean into. All these are tools, and an optimist is saying, look at the opportunities I have today. I'm going to do it. Not just all health is going to come to me. I am going to take an action. I am going to do the very best thing I can do. I'm going to take the effort, the opportunity to seek out and find the most healthy food that I possibly can. I'm going to prepare it, which maybe the healthiest food does not take as much preparing sometimes, to get some fresh vegetables and cut them up and make a salad. Does not necessarily have to create a lot of work. Maybe just the getting of them, to find them. To cook some portion of a protein, right? To give us something satisfying does take a little work. It does. But it doesn't have to be some gourmet meal, To simply fry up an egg is on the grand spectrum of cooking. It's not quite as convenient as opening a beef stick. Okay, there would be the fallback. Can't cook anything, Fall back into something like that more than other sort of snack food. Some sort of fallback, like some nuts or something, is still natural, unprocessed, giving you some fats and proteins, fiber, minimal carbs. What a great fallback. No cooking required, no refrigeration. Can bring them with you to work. Optimist is going to be saying, how can I get every fallback in place so that I can flow through this day and just hit every possible opportunity? Like the quote, if you're new coming in, I throw it up again. We're chatting about this quote I saw from Sahil Bloom. Always assume things will work out, but then do the work to make it true. Do the work. I love it. Having a positive attitude, I'm a huge believer in. There's so much. Think of the things, talks we did during the fall about all the processes that are happening in the subconscious mind that we are not aware of. We got this thin film on the top, the top 10% of what's happening. The cortical layer is we're thinking, but all this stuff happening under the radar. And I think this is part of the thing. When we set the direction of the whole system with our thoughts. And if we are stuck in cycles of negative thinking, I think it's just programming and it's sending the message to everybody else in the noggin there. Hey, don't work too hard. It's never going to work out anyway. And it's it just dampens the whole thing. But if we set the intention, the perspective, this is what I think is so positive about having a visioning space, even starting in the beginning of the day and trying to picture the day. What does the perfect health day look like, in the context of all these things? Like, look, I got these meetings and this thing to do, and I have to get here. Can you see yourself doing it and say, what would it look like to flow through all of these decisions and situations, right? Now it's like the CEO. I loved that session, CEO of the appetite. Sending the marching orders, getting all these deep layers that are running all of these things. Say, we are going to make this happen today. And that is an optimistic, we want to create a positive, self-fulfilling prophecy where we look at the situation and we see the good and we are looking to the light and we are trying to marshal every resource that we have. Seeing the opportunities, the fasting, the exercise, the healthy eating, and then dialing in our mindset. Bringing in some space into the mind also where we can breathe and we can let the stress flow out, even if it's for 5 minutes in the midst of a difficult day. This has so many positive effects, not the least of which is hormonal. Hormones might be the most important thing. Some people say, well, is the total calories the most important thing? A lot of study going into that, and that would be the default perspective, and I'm certainly not blowing it off. It's not that it doesn't matter. But hormones control how energy is processed in the body, and this is why I think we can get into so much confusion and difficulty in a space. Would you say it's true in your life? Isn't it true? Doesn't everybody know somebody who seems to eat whatever they want, but they are lean? And then you say some people say, I don't even eat so much, and there's like the weight does not go. And how can that be true? And I think part of it is that there are more variables in our human systems than we've appreciated, one of which is what is the hormonal state of the body. And this is how we can set up a dynamic where people think that their metabolism is broken and damaged. And what people don't realize is that the metabolism is dynamic and flexible, and it can change in response to the environment. And so really, I think a couple things are happening, both in a fasting space and an exercise space, as we change our food environment and as we change our emotional, psychological environment through things like breathing and journaling and a meditation space. We're changing that hormonal structure. It's like changing the operating system. How is the body running? The default state, as best I see it, in the dieting space, okay, dieting, I would define, is like no fasting, but eat less. And so we end up getting these conflicting pieces of advice that are basically like, you got to dial down the calories so that you can lose weight. But you can never fast because fasting is bad for you. This is basically, do you feel that message from society? I certainly hear it from different places, different nutritionists feel that way. And I did some sessions on this last year, maybe even a year and a half ago. We should maybe revisit it. There are a lot of studies, I did the session on the Biggest Loser effect from that show that was on NBC, The Biggest Loser. They bring people on, put them on extreme exercise and calorie restriction protocols, eating down something like 800 calories a day, bring the calories way down. And then the NIH followed participants on that show for, I don't know, even a couple years after the show. And everybody put the weight back on. People lost hundreds of pounds on that show. But they did basal metabolic monitoring on all the participants and showed that people's metabolism was slowing down over the course of the show. And then when the show was over and they stopped the extreme restriction, then people put all the weight back on. And so this is what many people experience through cycles of dieting, that they hit things very intensely, they lose weight, they plateau, and they end up on cycles. And people often go on multi-year cycles like this. And so a big goal that I have and that I have successfully helped people get out of using fasting is to break out of cycles like that, because it can break out of these cycles of negative adaptation when it is done carefully and thoughtfully. Because as we are getting into a space where we have calorie restriction without fasting, I think the reason we get into these pieces of advice is people look at studies like this and they just assume that this is a straight line always. And if severe calorie restriction without fasting is getting negative adaptation, then taking it the last notch to pure fasting has to be even worse. But that's usually not how it is. That curve inflects, and fasting can actually be the unlock. And it's not forever, because fasting eventually, especially as we flow out to 10 days, everybody's metabolism will slow down again because the body is going into a long-term conservation mode. Doesn't mean you still aren't losing weight in that space. It's just all these things are dynamic. But this is the way I like to personify that sort of situation in the body. Body is thinking, okay, body knows about fasting, right? The body knows. We don't know, collectively, we in society don't always know or appreciate it. But the body knows, and the body knows that stored energy, body fat, is there to power the body in a fasting space. This is trying to save it for when we really need it. This is, we can start to realize, we have frustration in a weight loss space, can be angry at the body, and we start to realize, like the body is working actually. It's like we just don't understand it. And so food, and we're eating, body will always use food before we start getting to body fat, because body fat is for when there's no food. So look at the space that we set up in a classic dieting sort of space. We keep food coming all the time, which is sending hormonal signals to the body that we're not supposed to be accessing body fat. But then there's not enough. And so we get into a really conflicted space. Doesn't it feel like that to be in a dieting space? Doesn't it feel like just being in an internal conflict? It's like we're always feeling hungry because we're never eating satisfying meals, but then our energy is low because there's not enough food there, and we're blocked from the body fat. And so this is how we can get into this space that feels like chronic low energy, don't have enough energy to get to the gym or do something, because we're like locked up in this tight metabolic space, trapped between worlds, right in between. Too much energy coming in to let us into a fasting space, not enough energy coming in to run our life. It's like metabolic netherworld. When you're in that sort of space, that's the space where you fully open up the space. Fasting is here. Now the body's like, oh, look at this. Now there's nothing coming in. Now the insulin level can drop. Now the blockers that are blocking access to body fat can open up, and the metabolism can reignite. That's the space between the logs that lets the fire burn. Let it breathe. So hormones, very important. It's not that calories are not important. Calories are important. But it's not the only variable. And when we put that calorie restriction into an actual fasting space, that's something, in my experience, and in many people's experience, help us flow actually more easily. A classic criticism of a fasting space, people say, oh, it's so difficult. Why are you making things more difficult for people when people can just eat less? And I say, well, how many people have you talked to that have tried it? It's not exactly easy to eat less. And it's especially not easy to eat less if we're getting into that sort of space where we say, oh, I'm feeling the energy going down. Okay, is fasting difficult? I say, well, it can be. But actually, when we open our mind to it, and we see that we can actually start flowing through a space that the body can adapt to it, it can actually become very, very pleasant. And it can look like what we're doing right now. I'm fasting right now, and I'm having a coffee, and I'm feeling great, and I have a lot of energy. and I just feel mental clarity from it. And I value it a lot. And so this is my hope for anybody coming through Fasting Space, our session, our show, this experience, that you can sink into this space, that you can spend some time with it, lean into it, soak up these ideas, bring them into your life to the extent that you like them and find value from them. Let them, plant them like seeds. To me, these things are like seeds that we can nurture, give them water, give them sunlight, help them to grow and flourish and can become a beautiful garden, maybe a flower garden of health, and that you can enjoy and come to a space where you say, you know what, the struggle is not so intense, actually finding a space, just flowing through here. Because if you can find a mindset like that, say that is like really going to support the optimism. Optimism can be a cycle, you know, it can start in a place and we take the action and then we see results. As I want, what kind of results are we seeing from it? And how, whatever the results are, say, oh, I'm getting some results, but I'm having struggle. Okay. See, then that's awareness and that's the place to work with it. That's where the struggle is. But then as we start working through it and we see the steps that we are taking, this can build our optimism. A very active optimism taking us to the place that we want to go. Beautiful to share this space with you. Thank you for being here with me. I hope you have a beautiful day. Fire up those optimism circuits. Apply them with the most thoughtful and conscientious action to any or all of these areas we are discussing. And let me know how it goes for you. I love to hear. And I'll be back with you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.